All right, let's start from the very start. Before we get into any of the technical stuff, let's talk about the fundamentals of storytelling. So whether you're telling a story from a personal trip, it's something that you did, or even if it's a technical knowledge sharing, you still need some sort of basic format that follows a flow in order to people get the most out of your content. What is the message for your audience and why should they watch it? If you're just telling a story, then what is the goal? What is the challenge that you overcome in order to achieve that goal? Now, there's a whole bunch of frameworks that you can utilize, and of course, there's the basic 3-act structure of setup, conflict, and resolution. Even the most basic of story can be that. You can say, well, my journey today, your setup is, this is where I'm going. I'm going to go to this location. Your challenge could just simply be the time that you have in order to cover that amount of road. And the open road is your thing that you need to travel along. And then of course your resolution is you've arrived at your destination, right? It can be as simple as that. And that is a story that's worth telling. Now, of course, you can overcomplicate it with a whole bunch of different frameworks, but that basic framework, if you build that into every piece of content that you put out, that'll make it much easier for your audience to be able to ingest it. So whether you use the simple 3-act structure or you use something more complex like a hero's journey, or even there's a book there, Save the Cat, by Blake Snyder. I recommend having a read of that. There's some great tips in there, as well as frameworks that you can utilize if you want to get to that complex sort of level. But at the end of the day, the whole point of those structures is to build out the feeling of the characters in the story. Now, for us in these sorts of things, it's simply us, right? We're the character going through this journey, and the journey is usually a pretty simple one. But at the end of the day, you want to talk about how you felt. What did this journey do for you? If you started here and ended there, what changed? The most common thing when you're riding a motorcycle is you're stressed here at the start and you feel free and awesome at the end, right? So express that. Make sure that comes out in your storytelling. Technical videos. So when you're doing technical videos, it's basically you're setting up a challenge, you're defining the challenge, and then you're defining the resolution, quite simply. The thing you got to remember though is that when people are searching for technical style videos, how are they arriving at your video? Now, usually they're searching for a resolution, right? They're at a point where I just need to fix some sort of problem. So your best chance is to define the problem really quickly and really succinctly up front, and then define the resolution in a reasonably swift way. Otherwise you're going to lose them. The thing about YouTube is you can easily just hit the next button and go back and, no, this one, look at the next one, right? Whenever you're telling a story, you've got to consider, what your audience is, and how are they arriving at your video. Now, if you think of a cinema, you pay a lot of money to go and sit in a cinema, and then you go through the trailers and all the lights dim, and then the movie starts and the credits roll. And usually that intro is quite a few minutes before you actually get into some sort of action. So you've committed to that time. As an audience member, you've said, okay, I'm going to commit 2 hours of my time plus the money, right? So they've arrived with a level of expectation, but also they've arrived with a commitment to watch. So it's harder to lose them, but their expectation is higher. Now, when we think about YouTube, it's the opposite, right? The level of commitment is extremely low. Your level of commitment is that you tell me what I need to know straight away, otherwise you've lost me. 15 seconds is sort of the key that most people talk to, is the time that you capture an audience. If you haven't got them in that first 15 seconds, you've lost them. So whenever you're structuring your videos, you've got to consider that. What is the commitment? Where are you showing your video? If it's a home video and you're showing it to the family, then they've committed to watching it, and so it's more of a cinematic style commitment. You've got them. They're not as compelled because they haven't paid money, but they're still reasonably committed because they want to watch it with you. But if you're talking about YouTube, it's quite the opposite. You need to be able to get your point across really quickly. So the key here is with your story is set it up, have the audience understand what they're going to expect, make a promise to them, tell them something that they can expect to see, yes, some sort of question that then will be answered, and then think about retention all the way through. What you want to do is ensure that your video is consistently interesting all the way through, and that by the time you get to the end, you've got that retention of that audience as much as possible.